You are listening to the Foamy Heads Podcast, where we discuss craft beer and anything else that accompanies a glass.
Another episode of the Foamy Heads. Mitch and Rich here on the mics, hanging out in Atlanta, Georgia. Mitch, a little bit of a drive from where we're used to hanging out at.
A little bit.
Nashville, Tennessee, all the way to Atlanta, Georgia. Hanging out at Sabbath Brewing. I know this place has a spot in your heart because you've been following these guys from probably a couple years back on Instagram. Ever since we came here a few years ago, and you're like, I want to go check out Sabbath. And we're like, oh, they're not open yet. So... it's been every time we come down here, I know you want to check them out and stuff like that. And today is the day. We're chilling with Jeffrey here at Sabbath Brewing. Welcome, man.
Hey guys, thanks for coming in. So happy y'all are here.
This is a great spot. It's just it's not low key by any means.
No.
The space is cool.
Thank you.
The space
it's definitely
is really
heavy
cool.
Metal inspired, so we turn up everything as loud as it goes.
Yeah,
Dude, I love it. And the tap itself sold me.
Oh yeah, it's an old church organ. So if you can imagine, it literally is the taps coming out of the church organ. So it's just like totally sacrilegious, just like this whole place. You know, we've got all things that allude to a little bit of Satanism.
so that's the spin kind of at this place.
Yeah,
right?
Sabbath. You know, it's like Black Sabbath, obviously, but also a little sacrilege.
Yeah,
You know?
Absolutely.
I'm loving the space. The artwork, we got the slaps over on the fridge area. Is that fridge or cooler? There's another
that's
word
our
for
tiny
it.
walk-in that is currently our linchpin for production. So I see I have kegs sitting on the outside because I can't even put them in.
No space for it.
No space in there. It's packed to the max.
Not a bad problem to have, though. I mean, you guys built for the space that you have, and hopefully as you continue to go, you're going to need more and more space. And
We are already having to expand. We just opened 4th of July, and it's now November, so we've been over like 4 months, and we're having to close down in January to an expansion. We're going to get a double-sized walk-in cooler, build a whole bar and everything. So I actually have places to put beer because my biggest problem right now is keeping up. Because we have such a busy neighborhood. I'll brew 7 beers on tap, and then on one weekend I can kick through 4 of them.
Yeah,
man. So I want to be able to build up a stockpile, which I could do with a bigger freezer.
Hell yeah.
The area in which Sabbath is located is interesting too. What chose this place?
I mean, this place. When I signed the lease on this place 3 years ago, over 3 years ago now, there was nothing around me. Like empty buildings to my left, empty buildings to my right.
3 years.
We just had I've been here since May of 18. And we have a heavy metal bar next door, Flatiron. Yeah, which is like Iron Maiden.
Iron Maiden.
Yes.
Yep, we said that. We said that yesterday.
We have the Earl, the East Atlanta Restaurant and Lounge, which is a famous venue here. It does a lot of metal music and alternative music. We have 529 across the street, another small venue. So we really wanted to be in this neighborhood that was kind of alternative and fit with our theme. So that's why we fought so long to be here.
That's awesome. And the place is just blown up, too, around you.
Yeah. I mean, since the, 3 years since I signed this lease, we have condos in every direction, new stuff going in. It's kind of wild. Nothing I ever expected to happen over here.
Yeah.
It's nuts. I was reading the article again on the way over here. I forget what news article it was, but it was just talking about the struggle with the city itself, getting this space to finally open.
The city, man, is... When I had my grand opening, the title for the grand opening was How I Learned to Stop Worrying and Love the Atlanta City Government, because it's been 3 years of fighting with the city of Atlanta. The first thing was a distance requirement for an alcohol establishment in the city of Atlanta. You have to be 300 feet from a tattoo shop, which is like crazy, not anywhere else in Georgia, but there was a tattoo shop that wanted to open a bar inside of their tattoo shop, and the city said, you can't do that. Tattoo shop said, why can't we do that? And said, well, here's why you can't do that, because we added it. So that didn't affect any tattoo shops, it just affected me.
Right.
So there was a tattoo shop right around the corner for me. I got a variance on that. It took me 6 months. And then in the time since then, the tattoo shop is closed. That didn't even matter. But then what I ended up finding out is in the city of Atlanta, you couldn't put a brewery in a commercially zoned area. You could only put a brewery in industrial, light industrial, and mixed use.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because prior to this, you couldn't sell beer directly. So, like, why would you pay commercial rent if you had to sell your beer to Publix?
Sure.
You're not making any money. So, and then the law changed we had to update the zoning laws to match that. So I had to actually go, before the city council for a year and a half and change the zoning code in the city of Atlanta to allow microbreweries and microdistilleries in commercially zoned areas.
Jeez.
So because of that, we've got breweries opening up now in places where they couldn't before, which is great for the beer industry itself. But it was a long fight.
Struggle.
And in the end, April 2020, the government shut down for 8 months.
Yep.
And then when the government opened back up, they were 6 months behind. So it was just a constant struggle, but we made it through. So there were some dark times when I was like, I don't know if we're going to make it.
Yeah.
But we're fucking here, and I'm very happy about it.
Me too. Ever since I saw the painting and the front of the space, whenever that got done, several trips. My brother used to live here. I know a few friends here as well, so I just make yearly trips or as often as I can.
Just checking in.
Yeah, because 2020 kind of ruined my whole timeline. I didn't know when the last time we were here, and it was 2019. It feels like 2018. COVID, yeah. It feels like long ago.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I'm just overly joyed to be able to have beer here now.
I'm so happy to have y'all in here, man. It's just it's so great every day just to see people in this space after so long of trying to get people in here.
Yeah.
So it feels great.
It's awesome.
I'm ready to drink some
Yeah,
of your
we've
beer.
got some in front of us. So we have a couple, and the first one we're starting out with is the Logic of Crocodiles Hazy IPA. I know you guys tend to lean towards more away from the regular traditional styles and kind of do the one-offs or whatever, but having hazies and having things like that are for the people as well that just want that when they come in. So I understand that there's a need to have that. But that's what we're starting with today, and then we're kind of getting a little weirder from there.
Yeah, we're going to get weird.
So tell us about the Logic of Crocodiles. All I know is hazy IPA.
Yeah, so I mean,
That's
it's
it.
deceivingly just called a hazy IPA, but this beer is actually a raw ale. So it is completely unboiled.
Oh.
And it's also fermented with a quike yeast. So it's like traditionally it's a farmhouse ale, which would have been a raw ale brewed with a landrace yeast like quike. So really, this is a raw ale, but we want it to be a hazy IPA, which people want right now. And raw ale really lends itself to hazies because if you don't boil, you don't have a hot break, you retain all that protein, you get a great mouthfeel.
Yeah.
And then also, at these low temperatures with unboiling, I can get really neat flavors out of the hops. So like traditionally you'd boil hops to get a little bit of bitterness. You throw them in the whirlpool to get some aroma. And this beer, it's never boiled. So it's held at 160 degrees for 30 minutes, and that pasteurizes it.
Wow.
But it doesn't create any of the protein breaks or loss of flavors from that. So then I do a long whirlpool at 160 degrees with some hops, and I get some like different flavors that you wouldn't even normally get out of some more traditional hops. This one is, I think it's all Amarillo, Citra Cryo, and then this new blend called Cryopop. Cryopop, which is, I believe, made by Yakima Chief, and it's their new cryo blend, and I really like it a lot. It's in this one and the next IPA we're about to have, but it's like really enjoyable. Like I get like passion fruit. This one's beer specifically, I get a lot of pine from the Amarillo at that temperature, and so I wanted to go less juicy, more grassy, piney with this one.
Oh man, let's dig in.
You want to take a sip?
Wow.
Boy, that stays with you in the mouth. Like it hangs around.
Yeah. It's got that nice floral taste to it.
I hate using the term mouth coating because when you look at like Untapped and all these, that's a flavor profile. It's like it's not a flavor profile, but like it's more of like an experience. But this thing kind of stays with you.
Yeah.
It kind of coats the roof of your mouth.
That's from the raw ale. That's because it has all that protein still in it, so it's sticking to your tongue, and then all those oils are actually hanging around, like you said. So you can really get a full hop flavor, which I enjoy.
Tell me more about you said it was Cryopop?
Yeah, Cryopop's the blend. That's what they're calling it. The name is Cryopop, which I really don't like the name. I usually list it by its experimental name, which is Try 2304.
Okay.
And it's a blend of different hops.
Different experimentals.
Yeah.
Okay. It's tasty. I like it, Mitch.
I dig it. It reminds me of, so I'm also a fan of sake and everything.
Oh, yeah.
And this makes me think of a Nagori, like the creamy.
Oh, that's really cool.
And this harkens back to that full throttle. Like, I'm loving it.
Have you ever had a makgeolli?
No.
So it's like a Korean fermented rice beverage that I love, and it's real creamy and stuff. And I want to make one of those here, but I was just wondering.
Oh, please do.
Yeah.
I'll drive down.
You'll get another trip from Mitch and myself.
Yeah. It'll be a labor of love for sure.
For sure. What is so I want to go back to real quick while I'm sitting there enjoying.
Yeah.
By the way, I'm looking at this thing. There is no seeing through this whatsoever.
Oh no.
It's literally haze taken to the next level. Like it almost looks like a grapefruit juice. It's super cloudy.
The malt bill on this is I use extra pale malt.
Yeah.
Because I want a really light colored beer because of that. You're not letting a lot of light through, so you don't want an ugly dark looking beer because there's not light penetrating through. And then it's malted oats and flaked wheat.
Okay.
So at about 40% adjunct. So.
And obviously you know everything about the beer that you're brewing, but kind of just talking to you right now, you're talking about experimental this, experimental that, and the process. You obviously have some sort of a background in brewing, whether it's home brewing just because you wanted to, or whether or not you actually have an education of it. So what brought you over to determine you wanted to do Sabbath Brewing?
Well, I've been brewing for a while now. Most recently, I was brewing at Sweetwater Brewing here in Atlanta,
Georgia, yeah.
And that's pretty much the biggest brewery in the state.
Yeah.
So I would pretty much reach the top of my pay grade, you know. And I was working overnights as to do at Sweetwater because it's like the 17th largest brewery in the country. And it was about 4 a.m. and the owner came in, blasted out of his mind with a bunch of his friends. And I'm sitting there working the centrifuge, just like 4 a.m. Like, oh, God, I hate my fucking life. And like he's just having a great time. And I just realized at that moment, I was like, I'm never gonna be the guy who gets to enjoy himself. I'm always gonna be the guy working the centrifuge at 4 a.m. So that was the biggest impetus for me. Like I knew I wanted to do this, but like that was what really sent it down that path. And next day, I started looking for places. You know, I put my house on the market. I was like, we're gonna do this.
You were all in.
Yeah, I mean, I was just like. That was the moment, you know, that was like that epiphany moment where I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. I want to be the guy that's in charge.
Yeah.
Yes. God.
So
Those moments are just so electrifying to me. Trying to put it into my view, I'm just like, man, you just figured it out right then. You know, I'm still waiting for my aha for my own sake. So it's beautiful here.
I mean, I wouldn't say I figured it out because this has been quite a learning process. You know, this is a crash course in business. And honestly, it's taken me 3 years to open, but like I don't know if I would have been ready 3 years ago. Like I have become so toughened through this whole process that like now when new problems arise, I'm just like, all right, let's deal with it.
Yeah.
Right.
Before it was like a catastrophe every time.
Yeah.
You see these people that are handed a bunch of money or handed a perfect situation, they go to open it, and then when something like COVID comes crashing down, the businesses are like, oh, I'm not sure what to do. I don't know if we're going to make it. You know, the people that lived through that, you know, and had to get scrappy and had to get dirty and raw are the ones that, and it, obviously there's lots of others that came out of it on the other side, but I think the ones that learned to pivot and just learned to dig in deep and do it from COVID are the ones that came out successfully on the other side. And like you said, 3 years, you know, of just like you started out in what you would consider to be a difficult situation. You put your house on the market, and then you started dealing with zoning laws, and then the city government, and then just when you thought it was ready, COVID came and hit and shut down the government. And then when they opened, they were way behind, so you had to continue to wait and wait and wait. But that's just a testament that you can push through stuff.
Yeah.
And when something comes along, you're like, I've had worse before.
Honestly, really.
Yeah.
When something else happens, I'm like, I've been through worse.
Yeah.
Amazing.
So, it is a testament to that.
This beer, I really like it.
Good. Awesome.
It sticks around. That's one part I really like about
Yeah.
it. It just sticking around because I get to hold on to that
Revisit it.
flavor. Yeah.
Nice.
It's
I
not
love
a
it.
typical hazy IPA.
No.
That's what I like. I mean, it looks like one.
Yeah.
You know, it looks like one of those. You see these people that are like hazy, the pictures on Instagram where it's just like super juicy and super all the way up to the top of the glass and that kind of stuff. You're like, oh, hazy IPA. This doesn't taste like other hazy IPAs I've had before, so that's a welcome change.
Good.
We've got another one, Mitch. What do you think? Should I pour it?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. So this is I'm gonna let you tell us a little bit about this, but this is the
Yeah.
It's an oak aged double IPA.
Yeah.
I don't know if I've ever had anything like that before.
Well, so first off, I think I left this out when we were talking about Sabbath Brewing.
Sure.
But everything here is fermented in oak.
Oh.
Yeah, so
Oh.
if you look behind you, I have all of these puncheons here that I converted into what I call baby fooders. And everything is fermented in those. I got the 5 on the back for clean beer, 5 in the front for Brett beers. And then I have one unit tank here that I use for crashing and carbonating.
Ah.
So everything is fermented in oak, but this one is specifically aged in oak. So this is the second of this series that I've made that I like to call IPA de garde.
Garde.
So it's like
IPA
a
what? Say that
IPA
again?
de Garde. Have you
Okay.
heard of beer de Garde?
Yeah.
It's like a Belgian style. So this is a beer de Garde means beer for keeping, an aged beer. You know, it's a strong malty beer that's held onto for a little while and gets a lot of these barrel characteristics. So I wanted to do this, but with an IPA. So I made a hazy double IPA, and I fermented this one with Omega's Cosmic Punch, which is a thiol boosting yeast.
Okay.
So I mash topped it with Saws, which is like weird for an IPA, but it
Yeah.
actually gives me a lot of these like the yeast. The mash hopping activates some thiols precursors, so that this yeast can act on that and boost these thiols. So you get a lot of these what I refer to as gooseberry, which is like a super grape, a super wine grape, a flavor that get out of that. But then I also finish it with a Saison yeast. So the clean yeast does the bulk of the fermentation, and then the Saison yeast dries it down further, a little bit drier, without getting all of the weird off flavors from a Saison. So
Interesting.
it is fermented for 1 week with the normal yeast, and then Saison yeast is pitched, and then it's aged for 6 weeks after that in the oak, and then I move it over to the bright tank, where I dry hop it at a cold temperature with your more traditional, like hazy IPA hops. This one has Nelson Sauvin and Cashmere for dry hop.
Okay.
Very cool.
I'm telling you, man,
Dude.
craft beer like originality. That's what I love. Just when you think you know you've tasted every single style, something like
Yeah.
this comes out of nowhere. And it's
This
like,
one is actually
what?
inspired by Le Freak, which is green flash. Green Flash. They made this beer maybe like 5 or 6 years ago.
Yeah.
It was more of like a red IPA, but they finished it with a Saison yeast, which I thought was just so cool, which is
Yeah.
what I tried to do with this one.
I don't think they distribute out here. Not in Tennessee
they-
where we're
yeah, they
from
stopped.
anymore.
They
yeah.
stopped, yeah. I remember seeing their products and then vanished.
Yeah,
And that was
Green
what,
Flash.
3 or 4
Yep.
years
But yeah,
ago?
that was the innovation for that one. That's where that came from. I was like, that's a great idea. I'm going to do that.
Yes.
And I love the way it came out.
It's got a great nose.
And a good color.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, what's great too about is fermenting an oak, but especially with these hazies, is like you get the softness from the oak, and then you also get like some vanillin characters from the oak, which is what people want in hazies. They want a soft, rounded beer with some vanilla notes.
Okay.
And I get a lot of that from this one.
Ah, man, I'm diving in.
I'm curious if I get those too.
Oh, yeah.
Is it weird to say I can taste the Saison like uplift at the end?
Oh, you definitely can. Yeah.
Okay.
It's just like, it's not like you're drinking a Saison.
yeah,
Right.
it's like
You know?
that farmhouse kind of like
Yeah.
corny banana bready.
It adds
like,
another dimension to it.
Yeah.
It does.
but it's still hoppy at the same time. Like it's definitely an IPA. I can taste that oak aging in it, but that Saison lift at the end kind of took me by surprise. I wasn't expecting to taste it. Like
Yeah.
you mentioned it, but I wasn't expecting to taste it that
It's a
prominently.
unique
Yeah.
beer for sure, and this is the second in the series that I've done, and I'm definitely gonna keep brewing. I mean,
Yeah.
I love each one that's come out this way has been just absolutely spectacular in my opinion.
It's nice and soft on my palate.
Yeah. What's the ABV?
This one's 8.5.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
yeah.
I'm glad we're splitting beers,
Yeah.
Mitch.
I would not be able to tell this is an 8.5.
It's drinks too smooth for an 8.5.
Yeah,
like
it's
it's
dangerous.
sweet, but it's not boozy sweet.
Right. Well, it does have like some of that residual sugar. This one has honey malt in it too,
Ah,
Okay.
so it gives you some of that residual sugar. But with the Saison yeast, it finishes dry.
man.
So it feels like it's sweeter than it actually has a mouthfeel of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So did you mention there were 7 beers on tap?
Today there's seven
beers on
yeah.
tap.
Well, one of them's a seltzer, so.
One of them's a seltzer. So, but I mean, it almost seems like do you guys have constantly stuff in the tanks like going all
Oh, it's
along?
always. Yeah, we never brew the same beer twice. So we've been
really?
open for 4 months now, and I have like 50 labels already.
Oh, man.
So
Shit. That's a lot.
I,
Yeah, a lot
I
going
like
on.
that transition
Yes.
though, because you used to have, we've got the craft brewers
Yeah.
that kind of came before you and everybody, and they're like the biggest in us for like in our instance in Nashville, it's Yazoo Brewing. I
Yeah.
mean, like they were there for the longest time. They were the OGs of craft beer industry in Nashville, and they were pumping out these weird beers called pale ales and IPAs, and no one had ever heard of them before.
Uh-huh.
And then that kind of paved the way for these other breweries. Bearded Iris, based out of Nashville, I think
Yeah.
we're the first ones in our area to start saying, you know what, every other week, we're going to release a new IPA. And people are like, what? And then all of a sudden they were like posting on Instagram about the new IPA, and people were just in line to get it. And that created that internal competition for brewers to go, maybe they don't want the same thing all the time. So all these breweries that are popping up out of nowhere are creating these new beers, and they're just one-offs, or maybe they'll release them once a year or something like that. But it's not like, oh, be on the lookout for this beer just out of nowhere. People go, I need to be there to get it.
That's what I love about being so small is, I don't have investors. I don't have to worry about if my beer is going to sell at Kroger or Publix. Like, I brew a beer. It's 100 gallons. I put it on tap here. It sells out, every one of them. So every time you come in, there's something new to try, something interesting, and it makes it to where I'll have an IPA or two on, but I'll be able to do other stuff that I like to try. Like I just did a collaboration with Sabbath Brewing out of Oakhurst, which is nearby, and we did so if you guys remember, black IPAs were like really big, in like 2013, but they were all based on West Coast IPAs. So we did a hazy black IPA.
How does that work?
It's so complex, dude. It is honestly, it's very polarizing. Yeah. But it is one of the most complex beers I've tasted because we use like debittered malt, so it doesn't have any bitterness to it at all.
Oh, yep, there we are. We're back. Audio's back on here too. So
sounding good?
Yeah, sounding good. Let's circle back to that hazy black IPA.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think it's just really cool to be able to do weird stuff. Like we just did a collaboration with Sabbath Brewing out of Oakhurst, which is nearby, and it's a black IPA. But if you remember, black IPAs were based on West Coast IPAs, and they kind of fell out of fashion. And now the hazy IPAs are in. We're gonna do a black hazy IPA. So it's not bitter at all. It's like it's chocolatey. Yeah. But it's got Zappa hops and Simcoe, so it's really juicy. I get like cedar and pine. And it's just like the most complex beer I think I've had in a while because it's so strange.
Man,
missed out on that one.
God, I'm
Was that in the Sabbath tap room here?
Yeah, we had it here and there.
Oh, okay.
Man.
So we blew through it here already, but
are you using Untapped at all for like your tap list?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Well, not for our tap list.
Okay.
Yeah, like we don't pay Untapped to publish our tap list. Yeah.
Okay.
But we have it on our website. It's always posted.
People are checking in beers here, though.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
I can use that and try and find a weekend when I see that similar thing come back, whenever that would be.
Yeah. And I'd watch out for that one.
Yes. I got 2 beers now. Oh man.
Is the goal to be able to? You mentioned, you're never brewing the same thing twice. Just always keep innovating and coming up with something new. You brew one batch of something, and then when it's gone, and that's it. Is that always going to be the goal, or is it always going to be just a single batch, or do you guys in the future? Obviously, you guys are brand new, but is the future to eventually have a base set of beers for distribution? Or is the goal just always, hey, if you want our beer, you got to come here?
I think that until Georgia gets self-distribution, I don't want to distribute really because
I
don't want to sell a keg for $100 that the distributor sells for $200 and the bar sells for $600.
Right. Yeah.
I want to sell beer.
Yeah.
I don't want to make other people money. But yes, the long-term plan here is this spot here in East Atlanta, I want to become like a brew pub, mostly venue, a smaller brew system, and then open up a production facility off-site that would be, instead of what I call baby fooders, like actual fooders.
Yeah.
So everything's still fermented in oak, but instead of 100 gallons, 1,000 gallons.
Yeah. Something that can distribute a little bit more, or move it around.
So it would still be one beer, and that's it. It's done, but there'd be 10 times of it,
Right. As people hear about you and continue to come, you're going to be running out of that beer faster and faster.
Yeah.
Unless you can make more of it. And in the space you have right now, that you have a cap.
Definitely.
Yeah. Got it. That makes sense.
It does. That's going to be amazing. I wonder what kind of food and whatnot would go where. 8.5 hitting. Whoa. How it will pair with all these beers from the baby foeders and everything.
God, I really want to do barbecue.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm
just an absolute glutton for some Texas style barbecue.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And I not to shame anybody in Atlanta, but I just don't feel like anybody's doing the same level as say Austin. So I want to get someone in here from there, knows what they're doing, and really bring some fire ass barbecue to Atlanta.
Get some good Texas style brisket.
Oh.
We're just a weird spot for barbecue. Like you think South barbecue, but Atlanta just doesn't have its own style.
Yeah.
It's a little bit of Carolina, a little bit of
It's diverse.
Tennessee.
Yeah.
I think I'm from Atlanta originally, and Atlanta's never really had its whole we are people from Atlanta. Atlanta's always been a melting pot of like different diversities and cultures of people that I think it's going to take even a few more years to people figure out what it is that Atlanta is. And until that's decided, you're not going to have a style of barbecue.
Yeah.
You're not going to have a style of beer. It's going to be a conglomerate of a
you
whole
have
bunch of
culture
stuff.
when you have your own barbecue.
Yeah.
That's true.
Hey, let's take a quick rinse break. I'm
Okay.
going to just check the audio, and we'll come back.
Sounds great.
All
We'll be right back.
All right, and we're back.
Yes.
And we got an interesting beer.
I'm very nervous about this one. So this one was brewed for a specific purpose today.
Yes, today at Sabbath Brewing, it's National Pickle Day on November 14th. So a very good friend of mine, Kelly, he makes Kelly's Death Pickles. And he makes all these pickles for bands. Like he makes labels for them in the same way that all of my beers are named after songs from bands. It's like a great synergistic thing, and we've been great friends. We did this last year. So this year, now that I'm open, I'm like, well, we're going to make a pickle beer.
Okay.
Yes.
So we have here in front of you is a hot pickle Saison. All of Kelly's pickles are like famous for being spicy. So this is a Saison I brewed, and then we actually use the brine from his pickling and then some really nasty looking fucking peppers in this beer. So it has a great Saison base that's like a little bit weedy, spicy,
Yeah.
you know, just like your standard Saison. But then with the brine, it really like adds like a Goza type quality.
Ooh.
And then the peppers I fucking love. Like it's like you drink some and you come back, you're like, I want some more of that. It's like
Yeah.
a Pringle.
What kind of peppers
Yeah.
are you using in this?
It's Trinidad Scorpion, butt jalaka, and ghost.
shit.
I'm
Yeah.
very
But
familiar
no,
with these.
it's not.
I'm here for it,
overpowering.
man.
Yeah.
I'm here for it.
So,
Well, you've been sipping on it,
I've been-
all
I've been-
afternoon though.
this
So I
whole
mean,
podcast I've been drinking a
Yeah.
pint of it. So
yeah.
All right, what's your background with pickles, Richard? You just don't like them.
Yeah, I don't have. I like so. I know it's a couple steps removed, but like, give me hot chicken with like pickle juice, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
Okay,
Like
okay.
I'm fine with that. Saisons I like as long as they're not sour. I think, in my opinion, this is just Richard's humble opinion, but when you have a Saison or if you have a farmhouse ale, like sometimes they can be masked as such when they're a lot more sour than typically they are.
yeah.
I kind of more prefer the corn, like yeasty, farmhouse ale
Yeah.
style. So I've been tricked a few times into having a farmhouse ale or a Saison that ends up being real sour. Not tart, but sour. Tart I can handle.
Yeah.
So I'm very curious about what I'm going to experience when I try this beer.
Man,
Only one way to find out, guys.
I'm all about the spicy foods, and well, my body isn't, but
You are.
anymore.
Your 30-plus-year-old self is not.
Unfortunately,
Yeah.
yeah. But I loved eating on Scorpion, and I started habanero used to be that hot thing,
Oh
and
yeah.
then
What's habanero now?
Carolina Reaper, Scorpion, all sorts of stuff. That Holokia came out. I ate a raw one of those, and that was fun. And then all of a sudden, there's something hotter, and something hotter, something hotter.
Oh.
And then I've had all the pickle variations with the aging with the peppers in it, and it's all so delicious. So I'm looking forward to this one. So cheers. Thank you for
Cheers,
having
guys.
us.
Sure.
So
Thanks a lot,
happy.
man. Appreciate it.
Very
Hey, that's
interesting.
actually. Oh, there it is. There's the kick.
There's the little bit of heat.
Right on the end.
Yeah.
A little bit of heat.
Yeah.
So
that's comfortable.
yeah, I get the pickle. We were at I was at I guess Mitch wasn't able to make it, so I ended up going, but we were at a bottle share in Nashville a few weeks back, and there was a pickle beer there. And I took a sip, just thinking not much, and it was heavy on the like super brine pickle, and it was, and no disrespect to the brewer, I don't even remember which one it is, but it was probably the worst tasting beer I've ever had in my entire life. And this is not that though. Like this is good. This is it's not over the top, little tart, but it's not over
Yeah.
the top like it's a Saison that I
Yeah.
imagine it to be. It's got a little bit of pickle like brine at the end, and then the heat kind of comes in, and it's still with me.
Yeah.
like it's still in the back of my
but
mouth.
not like a painful way.
Not
Right.
a painful
Yeah.
way. It's enjoyable.
Yeah.
Like it's got a little
Yeah.
heat to it.
It was
Yeah.
a lot of fun putting this beer together, like with pipettes and like trying to get the right amount of brine and
Yeah.
pepper. Because like the first one I made, I loved. Like I was super into it, but it was hot as fuck, and everybody else was like, "You can't serve this," and I was like, "But it's great."
It's so good.
So we had to tone it down a little bit, but I'm very happy with the way it came out.
This is a great product because anybody can take this one for sure. It's And I like the little punch at the end to let you know, hey, I was here.
Yep.
Yep.
Ooh.
Tags you a
Yeah,
little
that
bit.
heat. Yeah. It's a
And I'll say I don't like pickles. Don't tell Kelly, but I love him, and I just never have liked pickles. But you'd watch me drink this whole beer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, I think you were refilling it before we
I did.
started. So my
Yeah.
guess is you had a glass of it. You were drinking on one before we started here.
It's like I said, it's like a potato chip. It like makes you want to have more.
I like that slight heat that stays with
Yeah.
you. I've never the only time I've ever experienced that is if I'm looking at like a Mexican stout or like a hot Mexican hot
Oh,
chocolate
with
where-
peppers in it.
Yeah, where it's got the pepper, the heat at the end that just kind of sticks with you. I've never had it in a lighter beer like a non-dark beer.
Yeah.
Well, this is a new one for me. The Saison with the hot pepper. Oh,
It's nice.
that's
It
awesome.
hits
Yeah.
it hits a lot of spots.
It's
Yeah.
not only refreshing, but you could almost liken it to a pepper challenge. Not really, but I mean, if you want to create that hot one you made and then serve it on side,
I made a habanero IPA once. That
Ooh.
kind of sounds weird, but I freaking loved it, man. I drank like 6 glasses.
Oh.
The next day, though, it was brutal coming out.
oh yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah.
That's like the hot chicken effect.
Yeah, like you don't realize it when you have 6 of them, but that's a lot of capsaicin going in.
The day after
lot of
is
capsaicin coming out.
bad.
Yes.
A lot of capsaicin coming out.
Middle Tennessee's very familiar with this.
Oh yeah. We love our hot chicken in Tennessee.
Definitely.
Nashville based.
Uh-huh. Man, this is awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
So what's next? I mean, what's next for Sabbath Brewing? I mean, obviously
Yeah.
continue to pump out this single batch beers. You've got music here today.
That's a big
for the Hot
component
Pickle
here.
Day.
Like I said, we're in a neighborhood with lots of venues, and we wanted to be the small stage here in East Atlanta because as the years have gone by, the small venues have become bigger venues. So we host a lot of local bands, some touring bands that aren't as big.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what we want to focus on. We want to give
I
people
love
a
it.
place to play, and we want to have people come in and try our stuff and make new beers for people to try, be excited about, and keep them coming in. But for us next is, like I had mentioned, production facility in the coming years. We're going to expand this as much as we can. We have a 3.5 barrel system now. I want to go to a 7 in this space, and that'll make it where I do half as much work for twice as much beer.
Yeah.
Right.
Because right now it's just me. Yeah, I own the place. I brew the beer. I run the place.
Yeah.
So I'm just trying to. The next steps for me is making some money so I can hire somebody to brew beer and
Definitely.
focus on growing the business.
Man, amazing. And, every product so far, amazing work. Thank
Great.
you so much
Thank
for
you.
serving us today,
Yeah.
hanging out, and being on the podcast.
I'm so glad y'all came today.
Me too.
Closing thoughts, Mitch.
Everything's
think?
delicious.
Yeah.
I'm going to go try some more off the tap.
Yeah, I think that's the plan. We're shutting down here, but the plan is to stay for a little bit,
Definitely.
and enjoy some more off the tap wall.
Hell yeah, let's get some beers. Cheers, guys.
Cheers.
guys.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. See you guys next time.